Hello, beautiful humans. So I was just speaking with a client and she inspired me to make this video about the healing journey and when we know that the work is done. And I think it's a really important topic. It's something that I get asked often, that I get asked a lot is the work ever done? Is the healing ever done? Are we ever just okay? And do you know what? The answer is yes. But with a little bit of no. So let me explain. In one sense, yes, the work continues. The healing journey in many ways is the human journey, and there's always more layers to peel. There's always deeper to dive. But that doesn't mean that the work never ends, that we're never all right, that no matter how far we get, there's always something more. Really what it means is simply that, the way I view it anyway, is that freedom has no limit. It has no cap. The freedom, the ease, the peace that we begin to access can be endlessly expanded, unendingly deepened. And there's a real beauty in that. So it's not that it never ends in a depressing sense, that we'll never be all right. It's that the work never ends in the sense that there's always more liberty to expand into. And that can become a very exciting thing, a very inspiring thing. And I think that in mentioning that really helps me explain the end of the healing process in a way, like not the end, but when we know that the work is done, is there's just this moment. And my client just had this moment and I knew that she was there, I could feel it brewing. And it's a beautiful thing, it's magic when someone lands there and says to me, do you know what? Like, I don't need you anymore. I'm okay. And it's like, yes, you don't need me anymore. And yes, you are okay. It's a very moving and beautiful thing. And it absolutely is possible to get to that place. I remember when I had that moment myself, where I'd just been, doing the work in varying forms, the spiritual journey, the therapeutic journey, reading every book, doing every practice, doing everything that I could. And that hunger for healing is a very beautiful thing in many ways. That spiritual impulse, the desire, the craving for freedom is a very powerful and necessary thing. It's that urge that takes us away from the trauma, from the karmic loops and cycles and spirals and into something new. But at the same time, that same hunger, that same thirst or craving can paradoxically also be driven by the trauma and the wound, the human wounds themselves, because the trauma can co-opt the healing and really turn it into this incessant need to fix ourselves, to be better, to do better. And so that terrible toxic shame, that sense of not enough that plagues us, co-opts the healing and says, we become ashamed of our shame and anxious about our anxieties, and we have low self-esteem about our low self-esteem, like it's something that's wrong with us that has to be erased and gotten rid of on this journey so that we can be okay, so that we can be enough. And then it becomes, healing and the spiritual journey really becomes just this one big bizarre ego trip driven by fear. And so hopefully at some point on the path, there comes a moment when we sit down with ourselves and we start to realize that maybe, just maybe, we might be okay. just as we are. And that, as that moment blossoms, as it shifts forth, as it comes forth in the body, as it becomes not just an idea, but a somatic experience, we begin to learn to relax, just to relax into how we are and who we are. And that's what I spend a lot of time helping people do, is actually try to disrupt the need to fix themselves as quickly as possible, so it doesn't become a kind of 10 or 20 year extravaganza. I spend a lot of time trying to help people relax just into where they are. Because if we can do that, if we can say, like, yeah, I'm going to keep doing the work, but there's also nowhere to be. Like, it's all okay. I'm okay as I am. I don't need to be more this or less that. For example, you know, I'll use myself as an example. I remember the moment when this happened to me. It's not always a defined moment. Sometimes it's an accumulative, a growing sensation that comes to us over a period of time. But for me, it was a very stark and distinctive moment where, I won't get into the whole story, but I've always been a very obsessive overlearner. I have a lot of, you know, low self-esteem driven perfectionism, the need to know, the need to be with the one with the answers, all this kind of stuff. And I walked away from something. I walked away from someone's approval that mattered a lot to me. I walked away from learning more, and because I felt overwhelmed, like I was just sick, literally sick, just full, too full of information, almost like sick with healing. I was almost sick with my own healing. And I left this place where I was, and I went home and I sat and I went to bed that night, and I remember thinking, am I going to regret walking away? Am I going to regret leaving? Have I lost an opportunity? And I woke up the next morning and I sat down in my living room to do my meditation, and I just sat there. And I will never forget the sense of spaciousness that I felt around me. And I will never forget the sense of ease that poured over me. And the feeling was quite simply that there will always be more to learn, and it will be wonderful. And there will always be more layers to peel. And I will always have issues, and that's okay. It will all come in its own time, and it's okay. I have insecurities. I still do, and that's okay. Sometimes I experience anxiety, and that's okay. Sometimes my trauma pushes up through me and causes me to react to life in ways that I would rather not. You know, I lose, I compromise my own integrity, and I lose myself still sometimes. But you know what? It all happens 60, 80, 90% less than it ever used to. I am already more free than I ever imagined I could be. And that is enough. That is enough. I am enough. Even if I never transcend, you know, the threads of trauma that are still alive in me, even if they continue to be active in me until the day that I die, not in an apathetic way of like, you know, well, whatever, that's just the way I am, like, deal with it. It's not apathetic, it's not aggressive, it's not abrasive like that. It's not a resignation. It's not resigning to the fact that we'll forever be driven by our trauma and our human wounds. It's an accepting. It's a genuine surrendering to the fact that we are human. Perfectly, imperfectly human. And that will never not be the case. And so there is a moment that comes, if we're lucky, and if we're courageous enough to enter it, where actually the work will never end. And yet paradoxically, the work is already done and we're okay. And at that moment, we may well, you know, decide that we're going to stop therapy, or, you know, put down the books, the stack of self-help books, or take some space from our meditation training or teacher or whatever. It doesn't really matter. We may do none of those things. It may just be an energetic shift, but often a physical need for space for something will follow. And that's okay. That's a beautiful thing. My experience of the journey is that we ebb and flux, we in and out, we kind of tango. And we tango with the work itself. I have periods of time where, in some sense, the work is always ongoing because I have my daily practice that is continuous and has been ever present for more than a decade. But I say that I did go through a period for a year when I consciously, as bizarre as it might sound, I consciously stopped meditating, because I realized that my meditation had become this kind of, I was like afraid of not having it. I felt like I wouldn't be okay without it. I'd become attached to it. It felt like this safety net that I didn't know if I could survive without. And if I couldn't meditate for long enough, or on a rare day that I didn't meditate, there would be almost an anxiety around the not meditating. And so it became this sort of bizarre negative loop. And so there was 1 year out of the last 11 where I didn't even do that. But, you know, other than that, the process is continuous. It's always there in the background. I'm self-aware. I take inventory on a daily basis, on a moment-to-moment basis. I investigate my reality, my external and internal reality on a daily basis. That has become a natural practice for me. I meditate. I continue to study and learn and read and grow. But sometimes I do less and sometimes I do more. I tango in and out of therapeutic process. I tango in and out of my really direct spiritual study and development. At times I do more, at times I do less. And whenever I decide to go in and do more and do, it's like, yeah, another deep dive. It's like, I've started a new therapeutic process at the moment, and I find it's very painful and very exciting. I kind of go into it like, yeah, you know, like, all right, let's go there. What can we dig up? I'm not afraid of my pain today. I enjoy the process, even when it's painful, and not in a self-harming kind of masochistic way, just in a way that I like feeling alive. And I accept the journey and the work as part of that ongoing human process, the process of being truly alive, of being open to feeling the joy and the pain and the struggle and all of it. And I no longer struggle with the struggle. I don't suffer the pain. And as such, that means that suffering is not really something that's present in my life. There is pain, but there is not suffering. They're two very different things. And so freedom is not necessarily the absence of difficulty, the absence of humanity, the absence of pain or trauma. It's simply the ability to be comfortable and at ease with it all. And that is very much a moment that I believe we can arrive at, and maybe sooner than we think. So I hope that this video has maybe spoken to some of you today, maybe helped you arrive at that place of relaxation a little bit earlier. But also know that you don't have to push your way there, because that would also just be to bring more tension and stress into the process. You'll arrive there when you arrive there. And I think, you know, in spiritual teaching, we often talk about view, that when you listen to a teacher point towards something. So in this video, I'm pointing towards something. It makes it easier to identify the moment when it arrives. It makes it easier for us to see what's happening. And so I hope that at the very least this video can serve as a pointer, as something that maybe when the moment lands, you might just remember this. And in remembering this, it will allow you to enter that moment more fully and to just accept with joy and with courage that actually you're okay and that you're already there. So thanks for listening today. Sending you much love, all of you, always. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Aimee Ray. You can learn more about me and my work on aimeeray.com, which is AIMEERAI, aimeeray.com. And I also have some cool stuff up and coming. An online course, Relaxation is the Key to Healing, and also a professional training in my modality, which is Soul Medicine Somatics. That training is a dual path training, learning to work therapeutically with people one-to-one, and also learning to teach quite advanced somatic movement and meditation practice, movement, breath and meditation. So if you are interested in learning more about me and my work, or any of those offerings that are going to be up and coming, then do sign up to the newsletter on the website and you'll get notice of those things, and also sometimes cheeky discounts and things like that. So thank you again for your time and attention, and sending you all much love. Bye.